So you referenced the cost. You said a full MRI, which I've never had, in terms of as a result of a hospital visit. You're saying it might cost $50,000 plus. So I have the sense that here's the way the average American interacts with the healthcare system. They avoid it like the plague as much as they can. And then if something goes wrong within them, then they wind up as part of the system. And then if the doctors don't know what the heck is going on, then they say, okay, we're going to need you to get an MRI. It's not the first resort. It's kind of not quite the last resort. It's sort of like a close to last resort, in part because I don't think they want to incur the cost. The insurance companies will cover the cost, the very expensive cost of this MRI. And so the average consumer never actually has to think like, oh, like, should I get an MRI? And if you were to get one, it would be cost prohibitive. You'd only get one if your doctor was deeply concerned about something to a point where they thought it was a good idea, et cetera, et cetera. So when you were thinking, okay, let me get this out to the public, what does it cost now? And then what is the goal?
Yeah, it's a great question and a great observation. I unfortunately am attracted to very difficult challenges, and I think this is definitely one of those. The cost of the screening for cancer is $999, and for the entire body, where we screen for hundreds of other diseases as well, is $24.99. So it's perhaps less expensive than people think. We think it's great value for what you get. We're screening every region of interest in your body for maybe $20 or $30. So we screen for pancreatic cancer for $20. We screen for lung cancer for $20. But of course, the cost is still expensive enough that it's out of reach for a lot of folks. And there are a lot of folks that can afford it that don't necessarily want to know what's going on with their health. So this is a difficult challenge because there's human psychology involved. We don't always want to know, even though we wish we would know if we got caught with something late. We would wish we knew earlier. And then on the institutional side, I think there's a lot of questions about, well, this is expensive. Can we afford to do this for everyone at the population level? And there, really, the challenge is we think about this as only incremental technology. We believe that if we had a world where we were diagnosing everything early, everything downstream, all of the clinical care pathways would look totally different. And we would have a leaner and meaner healthcare system, maybe twice the size. And it would be focused on keeping people healthy rather than, spending an awful amount of money trying to keep very sick people alive a little bit longer. And in the context of the US economy, I mean, you can't fix the economy without fixing healthcare in the long run, just because of so many baby boomers retiring and ad demands on healthcare just going up year on year.
Yeah, the healthcare system is getting more and more costly every year. I believe it's up to about 17% of the economy now. Our outcomes are not getting any better. There are people who hear $2,500 for the full body scan and think, wow, that's a lot. And then there are some other people who hear $2,500 and say, like, that's not as much as I thought it was going to be. Well, what is the long range target? Could it become less expensive over time if you are, quote unquote, like at scale, or that there are some efficiencies?
Yeah, there's really three things that bring the cost down, and we're working on all three. The first is to shorten the time it takes to acquire these images. When we first started, it took almost 2 hours, and now it takes 45 minutes. And the long-term goal is this is a 15-minute exam. And these machines are expensive, and so time in the machine becomes an important component. The second is just old-fashioned scale. Some of the facilities we operate have more MRIs than any other facility in North America. So this is not a space that is sort of operating at scale yet. And scale will bring down cost. And then the third piece is really AI. And here we're working on AI models that can help our radiologists be more productive. And maybe in the future, we may not need radiologists for some parts of the exam. And we think the combination of these three mean that, these exams could be $200, $300, $400 in the not too distant future. And obviously, the cheaper they are, the more likely they are to be within someone's budget, and the more likely they are to be covered by insurance as well.
If you could get it down to $500 in 20 minutes, let's say, oh my gosh, at that point, it would become very, very customary, I think. And there are many situations where even at the current price point, it makes a world of sense. There are a lot of situations where if you can imagine catching something X months or years earlier, that even now at the current cost, it would be, I mean, obviously on a human level, like, you know, if you have a loved one or you yourself are at that point, it's like you catch it early. What's that worth to you? You know, like what, you know, and one of the reasons why I'm happy to have this conversation is I'm sure your company is saving lives all the time because people are catching things that they otherwise would not catch until they're in the hospital. And the doctors are trying to play Sherlock Holmes and figure out what's going on.
I mean, oftentimes when people ask me my sort of founder story, they expect that there's going to be, you know, this technology found cancer and now this is why this is my mission. But to be honest, I just really, I don't believe you can underestimate just the power of peace of mind. And, you know, we have a healthcare system that says, you know what, don't go looking. You're normal until you present with some sort of acute symptoms. And now, guess what? You have advanced X, whatever that happens to be. And meanwhile, as individuals, we feel aches and pains from time to time. You know, you may have felt pain in your shoulder or some pain in the abdomen. And there's always that little voice saying, well, what if that was the same thing that someone else had? Or, you know, what if this is something life-threatening and my doctor's not paying attention to it? So these scans are sort of a great equalizer because we will catalog everything regardless of whether you feel any symptoms, regardless of whether you feel like it's normal or not, regardless of whether your doctor is willing to listen to you and do further investigations. And ultimately, we provide a catalog of whatever we see and then empower the patient to do, you know, to basically take their health into their own hands. And I believe that's the future because no one cares about your health more than yourself. And consumers are smart today. They do a lot of research. And I'm sure when you got your report, the first thing you did was you went to Google or, you know, ChatGPT and went to work to see what you could learn about yourself.
Yes, that I'm healthy as a horse. That's what the clinical report said. No, I'm kidding.